2:32 a.m. in the morning. We have 19 affirmative votes, 1 negative vote, 1 abstention. Senate Bill number 2020 is approved on third reading. Congratulations.
Lawmakers allied with the Marcos administration delivered on a promise to pass the Maharlika Investment Fund Bill. Only a lone senator opposed the approval of the measure, certified as urgent by President Bongbong Marcos. But despite the amendments introduced to the measure, some sectors think it is ill-timed amid uncertainties in the global economy. Good evening, I'm Pia Hontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. While we will tackle the Maharlika Investment Fund Bill, something is brewing in the House of Representatives, nominal voting going on a report by the Committee on Ethics on the case of Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Teves. The committee recommending another 60-day suspension and the forfeiture of Teves's committee membership. We're going to get an update on that a little bit later on in the show. In the meantime, President Marcos, of course, assuring the public pension funds will not be used in the creation of the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund, but he clarifies agencies handling these pension funds cannot be prevented from investing in it.
We will not use it as a seed fund. However, if a pension fund, which is what pension funds do, is they invest. If the pension fund decides that the Maharlika Fund is a good investment, it's up to them if they want to invest in it.
Our first guest tonight joining us via Zoom, and in this first segment of the show, Senator Teves Escudero. Good evening to you.
Pia, good evening to all of our televiewers and subscribers. Good evening.
Well, Senator Teves, let's begin with that. What the President was saying, that pwede namang mag-invest eventually itong pension funds doon sa Maharlika Investment Fund Bill. What does that sound like to you?
Yeah, my understanding of the amendment proposed by some of the senators, actually a lot of them, majority of them belonging to the administration party, would like an absolute ban on these pension funds investing not only in the seed capital, but even in the future. Because it's a slippery slope here, because when the President said, it's up to them if it's earning or not. You have to bear in mind that all of the members of the board are appointees of the president. So, hindi naman talaga ganun ka-independent yung desisyon at pagpapasa, halimbawa ng PhilHealth, ng GSIS, ng SSS, ng OWA. They will follow most likely if their instructions made or given by the president.
Senator Teves, let's go back to that in just a bit. But I wanted to tackle first your not having been present or your absence during the voting. Should people wonder about that? Should they read any meaning into that?
Well, Pia, an absence or non-participation, an abstention, and a no vote have one and the same effect. Kasi ang binibilang lamang naman sa pagbasa ng anumang panukalang batas, an affirmative or positive vote for as long as there is a majority of quorum making such an affirmative or positive vote. In my case, Pia, hindi ko inakalang tatapusin nila ng gabing yun. Akala ko pag kinaumagahan na yung botohan. But having said that, I would have had strong reservations about voting in favor of it given the constitutional and legal questions I raised before the period of amendments began.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying if you would have had strong reservations about voting in favor of it, that you would have voted no if you were there anyway, and that is why you're saying pareho lang naman effect.
I would not have abstained, Pia.
You would not have abstained, so it would not have been a yes, it would have been a no. Let's talk about your main criticism of the bill. Is it because, as you've explained, you believe it is constitutionally infirm because it effectively creates a new GOCC. You're talking about Article 12, Section 16, and I wanted to very quickly read it so that we can quote correctly. No? And we quote, "The Congress shall not, except by general law, provide for the formation, organization, or regulation of private corporations. GOCCs may be created or established by special charters in the interest of the common good and subject to the test of economic viability. This is very important to you.
So there are three requirements, Pia, provided for in the Constitution. This is a new provision not found in the 35 and 73 Constitution given our experience during martial law, kung saan piso isa ang kinikreate na GOCC na lahat naman ay nalugi at binalikat ng taong bayan yung pagbabayad ng mga utang na pinasukan nila at pagkalugi nila. That is the reason behind this provision. It provides for three requirements. By special law, by special charter, ibig sabihin, Act of Congress. Pangalawa, in the common good, madaling sagutin yun. Pangatlo, subject to the test of economic viability. Hiningi ko yun, hiningan ko yun. Mula pa nung unang hearing na inattendan ko, Pia, pero ni minsan hindi nila pinakita. At ang pinakita sa akin ng period of interpellation sa plenary ay ang pamagat ay business proposal, ni hindi test of economic viability. At ang pinag-usapan lamang ay kaugnay sa pag-invest sa mga security o stocks at walang sinabi na analysis kaugnay ng pag-invest sa mga infrastructure projects, actual infrastructure projects. Samantala, nakasulat sa bill, nakasulat sa mga pananaw at opinyon na sinagot sa plenaryo at ng mga press release ng economic managers na pwede silang mag-invest itong Maharlika Investment Fund sa kalye, sa dam, sa tulay, sa airport, sa gusali. Walang test of economic viability silang pinakita sa amin na doon. Naniniwala ako, Pia, na ito ay condition precedent. Hindi dapat magpasa o maglikha ang Kongreso kung wala ito. Pwede naman nila kaming lokohin, biruin o pasakayin eh. Pero dapat naman sumunod o tumupad dun sa itinatalaga ng saligang batas. Ayon na rin sa mahabang debate ng framers ng Constitution natin, kabilang na sila dating COMELEC Chairman Monsod, kabilang si dating Secretary Blas Ople, at kabilang na rin si dating Chief Justice Davide.
Senator Cheese, are you saying that this can be challenged in the Supreme Court? And if it is brought before the Supreme Court, would it take jurisdiction of this?
I will not be the one to do it, Pia, but I was trying to, again, when I delivered a manifestation, I said I'm delivering this manifestation as an amicus curiae, as a friend of the court, as a friend of the Senate, as a friend of Congress, that this is how it should be done if you really want to do it. But they set it aside, and in the interest of time management, in the interest of haste, decided to pass it notwithstanding. Now this opens it up to possible constitutional scrutiny. Another possible constitutional scrutiny, Pia, would be common good. They took it lightly. They thought common good was basically a generic term found in most political science or sociology books. But the constitutional framers of the 1987 Constitution had a specific intent. Ang definition nila, Pia, ng common good ay dapat yung papasukang negosyo ng GOCC ay yung serbisyo na hindi pinapasukan ng private sector involving a public interest. Kabilang na pagbibigay ng kuryente, pagkolekta ng basura, yung mga ganong uri ng serbisyo. At ang ayon din sa kanila, nung nag-debate sila, ang definisyon ng common good ay hindi dapat makipagkompetensya ang gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng isang GOCC sa pribadong sektor kung kaya naman nilang gawin at dati na nilang ginagawa yung aktibidad na yon. Well, I guess investing in stocks, investing in corporations has been the age-old function of most of the businesses, private businesses in the Philippines.
So I guess, Senator Cheese, kahit na dumaan na sa Bicameral Conference Committee, sa BICAM, hindi pa rin tapos itong istorya ng Maharlika Investment Fund Bill. Senator Cheese Escudero, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Salamat po, sir.
Thank you, Pia, sa ating televiewers. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat at maraming salamat. Ingat.
We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned.
And this is the issue. The national government will be forced either to impose a higher level of taxes or borrow funds from abroad or from domestic capital markets or do both. We don't want to see another increase in taxes. We don't want to see higher borrowings because in the final analysis, all of us would have to pay it back. as taxpayers.
Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. The Senate version of the Maharlika Investment Fund bill was approved early this morning, and the House of Representatives has adopted the measure. Our Amor Santos has the full story.
While many were sleeping, the Senate passed the Maharlika Investment Fund Bill past 2 in the morning on Tuesday. The final vote, 19-1-1. Only Deputy Minority Leader Risa Ontiveros voted against the Maharlika bill, while Senator Nancy Binay abstained. Absent during the voting were Minority Leader Coco Pimentel, Senator Teves Escudero, and Senator Amy Marcos.
At 2:32 a.m. in the morning, we have 19 affirmative votes, 1 negative vote, 1 abstention. Senate Bill number 2020 is approved on third reading. Congratulations.
Plenary discussions lasted almost 12 hours. Pimentel moved to send the bill back to committee level, but only Ontiveros agreed with him.
Such a divisive, incomplete, and unjustified idea needs more than 12 days, 12 weeks, or even 12 months of discussion.
In the period of amendments, the Senate prohibited SSS, GSIS, PhilHealth, and other GOCCs involved in Social Security and public health insurance from investing in the Maharlika Fund.
We would like to ensure that the pension funds and the aforementioned funds would not be touched, Your Honor, to at least preserve this, because we have had experiences in the past where the hard-earned money of our people were lost.
The allowable investments of government financial institutions were limited to 25% of their net income. The initial capital of 125 billion pesos will come from the Land Bank of the Philippines, Development Bank of the Philippines, and the national government. Meanwhile, the Maharlika Investment Corporation, or MIC, has an authorized capital stock of up to 500 billion pesos. Previously, the Senate bill allowed the MIC to increase its capital with the approval of the President. The latest version requires a law for it. Senator Win Gatchalian failed to exclude the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas from the list of mandatory funding sources.
The BSP has already said that they are willing to defer, and this is acceptable to them. And the economic team has already expressed that the dividends, it's a priority for them that the dividends received from the BSP be used for the Maharlika Investment Corporations.
As pushed by Ontiveros, the 9-member board of directors of the MIC cannot include those with pending cases relating to fraud, plunder, corruption, money laundering, tax evasion, and other similar crimes. The penalties for misuse of the Maharlika Fund are now more stringent, with imprisonment of up to 20 years and fine of up to 10 million pesos.
Napakatindi. As a matter of fact, kung ako yung taga-private sector, pag binasa ko yan, baka matakot ako pumasok at sumali dyan.
By noontime, the bicameral conference committee composed of several senators and congressmen convened. But even before their meeting, Senate President Mig Zubiri says the House has already committed to adopt the Senate version.
This was 10:52 a.m. Good morning, House of Representatives. Accept all. Congratulations and thanks for the trust. Wonderful news, Secretary Mina of the Pangandaman of the DBM.
Senate President Mig Zubiri called it a triumph of the Senate, saying the chamber has improved the House bill with sufficient safeguards. The bill's sponsor, Senator Mark Villar, says the investments will also create more jobs for Filipinos. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
We're talking about the proposed Maharlika Investment Fund bill. Let's get the sentiment of state workers on this measure. Joining us now is Government Workers Group Courage Secretary General Manny Baclagon. Good evening po sa inyo, Sir Manny.
Good evening po, Ms. Pia Hontiveros at sa mga televiewers ng CNN. I have to say, in behalf ng mga kapwa-empleyado ko na we're very saddened and so angry na napasa tong bill na to. At ngayon nababalitaan namin na pati ang House inadapt na din yung Senate version. What is the urgency? Hindi ba mas urgent yung mga inflation issue, ma-address to, yung mga wages ng mga government workers and even our private sector workers nangangailangan ng wage increase. Hindi ba mas urgent to? Ano ba urgent dito sa Maharlika Investment Fund na to na minadali siya? It's like parang pinasa siya like a thief in the night. At saka yung the way it was passed, kahit na marami na nagpo-protesta at marami nag-express ng distrust, even those who approve it, nag-express sila ng distrust, pinasa. So, mas lalo
Sir
kami
Man-
nagdududa na
Sir
it's
Manny,
a
can you
scam and
answer?
all yung mga promises.
Sir Manny, can you
those are
answer
just
your
promises.
can you answer your own question,
Yes po.
Sir Manny? Kasi sabi niyo, what is the urgency? Well, what do you think is the urgency?
The urgency is parang gusto nila talagang ipasa kagad without even giving people, especially yung mga yung workers like us na may stake do sa mga social pension funds na makapagsalita. Sabi ni President Bongbong Marcos, at maski dyan sa bill niya, sa Senate version ng bill niya, at ngayon inadapt na daw ng House, ay exempted naman po ang mga social pension funds sa pag-ano po nung seed fund. Pero in the
Pwede na.
future, not only in the future, in the very near future, kung ang board ng mga pension funds nato ay nag-decide to invest, wala kami magagawa kasi workers like us have no significant participation or decision making sa mga board na yan.
Well, if you
So,
had a say,
Yes
Sir
po.
Manny and Courage, where would you like to see those public funds invested?
No, we don't want dubious yung yung Maharlika Fund na Imagine a government banking on development scheme or plan na it's like a gambling gambling fund na magsusugal lang sila sa mga investment na mataas daw ang yield pero mataas din ang risk. So kung
Okay.
matalo yan, paano yung mga nasugal na pondo?
Oo. Last question
yun
na lang po, Sir Manny. Would you try and oppose this even if it gets ratified? Kasi dadaan at dadaan yan sa BICAM, makakalusot daw yon sigurado. Meron ba kayong gagawin para i-oppose pa ito?
Yes po. Hindi pa naman late. Dadaan pa sa BICAM kahit lumusot siya. Perhaps we are still hoping perhaps that the President himself will be to it na dapat nothing about us without us. I-consult yung mga people na nag-express ng doubt. Not only the experts. Kasi pondo ng mga manggagawa yan eh. At maski po hindi yung pondo ng manggagawa sa Land Bank at sa Development Bank of the Philippines, pondo po yan para sa mga magsasaka at sa mga small entrepreneurs natin na dapat yan na-ensure na siya. So ano po balak namin? Magpo-protesta po kami. In fact, nag-joint statement na po ang mga iba't ibang mga public sector unions and organizations against this Maharlika Fund. Panawagan po namin, hands off our social pension fund, junk this Maharlika Investment Fund.
But you're saying you're hoping the President will veto it, but this was certified as a priority measure.
Yes.
This was something that he pushed for.
Yes. So before I continue, I salute Senator Pia Hontiveros for standing up against this investment fund and all those other lawmakers na nag-stand up din at kahit papaano ay in-express yung mga doubts dito sa mga butas, mga loopholes dito sa so kung despite that protest, kanina po ini-express po ni Senator Escudero at na iba pang mga na baka we would have to go to court
Alright.
to question this law if it becomes a law.
All right.
Yes, po.
Mr. Manny Baclagon, Secretary General of Courage. Sir, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Stay tuned. This is Politics as Usual. Be right back. We're still on politics as usual from the Senate. Let's now go to the House of Representatives. Our Cian Arcangel is there. Cian, what is the latest on the Maharlika Fund Bill's ratification? And you do have some news on Arnie Teves. Go ahead, Cian.
Yes, Pia, the bill creating the Maharlika Investment Fund is closer to becoming a law after the House of Representatives adopted the Senate version of the measure. The motion to adopt Senate Bill 2020 creating the Maharlika Fund was approved on the final day of session before Congress adjourned sine die. The House's adoption of the measure means it can now be sent to Malacanang for President Bongbong Marcos' signature. Pia?
Cian, and of course, like I mentioned a while ago, on another issue, there is an update, right, on the Committee on Ethics report or proposal, no, for sanctions on Arnie Teves, and there was a voting on it.
Yes, Pia, shortly after the House adopted the Senate bill on the Maharlika Fund, the chamber voted to suspend Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Teves for another 60 days. The House also approved the forfeiture of Teves' membership in all House committees. Starting today until July 30, Teves' rights and privileges as a lawmaker are also suspended. Teves is listed as a vice chairman of the House Committee on Games and Amusements and a member of the House panels on legislative franchises and nuclear energy. The chairman of the House Ethics Committee, Congressman Filimon Espares, said Teves should be held to a higher ethical standard as a public official. Here's what he said in the plenary.
The Committee on Ethics and Privileges recommends to the House of Representatives the imposition of the following penalties. 1. A 60-day suspension for violation of Section 142, Paragraph A and B of the Rules of the House of Representatives and for disorderly behavior. As a consequence, all his rights and privileges as member of the House of Representatives covering the said period are likewise suspended. And 2, the forfeiture of all committee memberships of Representative Arnulfo Arnie A. Teves, Jr.
Here, the House has designated Speaker Martin Romualdez as the legislative caretaker of Teves' district in Negros Oriental for the entirety of his suspension. Rizal Representative Jack Duavit, a stalwart of the Nationalist People's Coalition, appealed to Teves to return to the country. In a speech explaining his affirmative vote for the suspension, Duavit said that Teves should, quote, take the lifeline, end of quote, and have trust and faith in his fellow lawmakers. Yes?
Cian Arcangel there reporting. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk warfare, digital or otherwise. But we can talk about it here at this table on the show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. See you back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m.